Thank you very much to Imilonji Kantu and Soweto Gospel Choir for starting the session for us. Gamalam Gunziki Mazwai, it's Women's Day in South Africa. I found it fitting to address my sisters, my mothers, my daughters, my nieces this morning, mainly because the women in ANC have given their voice to Cyril Ramaphosa. The women we've entrusted in EFF have given their agency and voice to Julius Malema. And I thought that it was important that women hear from a woman on National Women's Day, when we women are facing so many things that Cyril and Julius can't even remotely relate to. So I won't be reading a speech that the women around me wrote for me. I'm going to be speaking from my heart as a woman in this country, as a female leader in this country. Unfortunately, the women who should be behind my back and supporting me and supporting this address are busy toiling for men. I think one of the biggest issues that we need to address, which is what has shown itself in the issue of patriarchy and toxic masculinity, is that men take away the voices of women. Men feel like they have a right to speak for women. They are the man of the house. I'm a man, therefore I am right. And I think that's how we have reached a situation where we are doing so badly as a community. So I think this is a sheer example of the state of affairs for women in South Africa, when two men in leadership, who are our leaders, are the ones representing women on Women's Day, because men feel like they must infiltrate every space. The mere fact that there's Women's Day is because women felt they didn't have a voice, and women needed to stand up for themselves and take agency for themselves. But the men in 2010 have found it fitting that we don't need to speak for ourselves. We have no female leaders to speak to us on Women's Day. There are no inspiring women who we can share experiences with, according to the men. And therefore we are in a situation where we are being represented by Cyril Ramaphosa and Julius Malema on Women's Day. I don't want to get too political, but there's a cartoon where they're each pointing at each other. Julius Malema saying that Cyril Ramaphosa is a wife beater, and then Cyril Ramaphosa also saying Julius Malema is a wife beater. So that these two men who have got this cloud over their heads are the ones representing us on Women's Day is insulting in a grossly, wow, it's such an assault to the spirit. That a man like Julius Malema, who said that Kwezi enjoyed getting raped, is the man representing us today as women. That this man, Julius Malema, who was telling in public at Parliament, was insulting a mother, Baleka Mbete, about her sex life. This young boy went for a grown woman's sex life. This young boy is the same one representing us today, being the national main speaker on Women's Day. And I think that is one of our main problems, is the dismissal of women and the forcing of toxic men into the spaces that should be occupied by women. The main address on Women's Day should be occupied by a woman. Women's Day was created by women for women because we wanted our voices and our rights to be acknowledged. Now, 20 years after, thousands and thousands, 50,000 women marched to be like, I want my voice to be acknowledged. Here we are, 2020, having men speak to us on our behalf when they are the perpetrators on violence on our bodies. Can you see the problem? How is it that the abuser is going to speak for the victim and be the voice of the victim on the victim's day? How did it make sense to you as national leaders, women leaders in EFF, women leaders in ANC? How did it make sense to you that we are facing gender-based violence on a national scale we've never seen before in our lives, but you found it fitting that two men that have got a cloud over them should be the ones speaking for us? I want to talk about also the cloud that hangs over men. Gentlemen, there's nothing you can do about the cloud. The only way that you can not have a cloud hanging over you is to treat women with respect. When men treat women with respect, there are no scandals that come up. So I want to tell you, whether you go to, I'm seeing this new thing of defamations and whatever, whether you do that or not, it makes no difference. Because once there's an aspiration cost on your character, I want to tell you that we may not speak out loud, but we believe it. So here you are, we sitting silently believing what we believe, and you're going to stand there and speak on our behalf. We, the women, will choose the women who must speak for us. We, the women, will choose female voices who we feel represent us. We, the women, can choose for ourselves. Because there's another thing where men pick and choose which women can be in leadership. They pick and choose the patriarchy princesses, the ones that they can control, the ones that have got no political ideology, the one that... So we've got a situation here now where men have used women to keep out the strong women from leadership. Men have completely hijacked the women's revolution. Men have completely hijacked Women's Day in South Africa. South Africa's got the highest rape statistics in the world. Women need to have a voice. We need to hear from the women. If men want to have occupied places where they want to be the keynote address, please, we encourage you to have that men's conference you keep joking about. You keep joking about the men's conference, and yet women are dying. You're raping women, but you joke about the men's conference, and then you come and you force yourself into Women's Day programs. What is that? Anikul? You men are sick. You're so sick that now it's come to a point where you are silencing women. That's our biggest obstacle that we're facing as women in 2020, is that you have taken away our voices. You've not only raped us and murdered our sisters and our mothers and our daughters, but now you are going for the jugular. You are Niskamile, guys. Niskamile, and now you're taking up space in our spaces. Men have got enough space. It's a man's world. It has been set up that way. So men have got enough space. 90% of the cake is men. The 1% that we want to call Women's Day, you want to take that too? So when can women speak? When can women use their voices to address their own issues? Do we need your permission for that also? Do we need men's permission to exist? Do we need men's permission to speak? Because if we need men's permission, then it means that we don't exist. It means that my value, guys, my value, because, you know, take us off. Just take us off once, kill us all once, rape us all once, because you're already doing it. You're already doing it. I want to speak to the women. Sister, you have a right to be loud, unapologetic, do as you please with your body. You do not need permission or validation from any man. From your brothers, from your fathers, you don't need permission. You were brought into this world by your creator. And your creator made you a specific way to be yourself and shaped you to be you. So the minute you give your voice to a man, you are no longer honoring your God. You need to understand that. So this thing where we're silent and we're quiet and, oh, he's the man, has got to stop now. May we be the generation of women that stops all the abusive cycles. May we be the generation of women that speaks. May we be the generation of women that helps the women coming after us. They don't need to get raped like we did. They don't need to be in toxic, abusive relationships and get beaten up like we did. We need to use our voices, ladies. It's reached that point. We cannot sit quietly anymore. Siyabulalwa. So, I mean, this morning for me, it's National Women's Day in South Africa. This morning for me is about speaking to women about unity. Women, we've been taught to hate each other. We've been socialized. We've been taught to fight each other because it's the men who get to choose. They choose who's who and who is good enough. They validate us, and therefore it's created a situation where we fight amongst ourselves to get that validation from our men. Can we acknowledge that? And can we now start acknowledging that we don't need validation from men? The reason that men can come between us is because we have allowed it. It's because we have allowed them to use jealousy and divide and conquer amongst us. So the only solution to what we're facing now is unity. Whether you like the sister, whether you don't like, it doesn't matter anymore. I can't tell you how many people I've had to just put down my beef and hold their hands at this point. Even them, when they saw that Six is in shit, they were like, fuck, I don't like this bitch, but I'm coming. I'm coming from Kulumela because this issue affects all of us. Do you understand? An injury to one woman is an injury to all of us. If he's going to beat you, he's going to beat the next girl, he's going to beat the next girl, we're all going to get beaten up. If he's going to rape you, he's going to rape the next girl, we're all going to get raped. I remember I even had, after being raped, when my rapist was convicted for raping somebody else, somebody came and said, Nziki, why didn't you speak up before this person could rape somebody else? So do you understand how important your voice is, my sister? Do you understand how important it is to point out the rapist so that the other children don't get raped? It's not about men anymore. We don't need their permission anymore. We have led revolutions from time immemorial, guys. Women have led battles, but they're both Queen Zinga. Women are powerful. We don't need men to give us permission or to give us a gold star. What is happening now is that men are taking advantage of the situation where we don't stand up for each other. And if you don't stand up for me, they're going to abuse me. And if I don't stand up for you, they're going to abuse you. Do you understand that? So whether I like you or I don't like you, I have to stand up for you. That's the message for today, for Women's Day. Is whether this sister is your enemy or your friend, you have to stand up for her. The time is now. You can see all the campaigns going on in the past 3 weeks alone. It has just been a mess. It's been a mess. Things I can't even. It's been a mess. It's been a mess. This morning we're waking up to the news that at KFM women have been sexually assaulted from the beginning. We're finding that in our workspaces, men are abusing their power, and they can abuse their power because the system works for them. So the boss can sleep with all the subordinates and get away with it for years. Because why? Because we are quiet. Silence encourages violence. Silence allows violence. This is the time that we cannot be silenced. We cannot be silenced. Zinzi Mandela said that if anybody tries to silence you, you must be as loud as possible. And if on Women's Day, men are taking the platform, we need to be as loud as possible to say, this is some bullshit. We can speak for ourselves. You don't have a vagina. You cannot speak on behalf of people who have vaginas. You don't bleed every single month. You cannot speak on behalf of people that bleed every month. You don't even look after your children. You cannot speak on behalf of these women who are raising your children when you have disappeared. How dare you take up our platform? How dare you speak for us? Who are you? And you have got stories about beating up women, you've got stories about raping women, and now you want to take the platform on Women's Day. Go to the men's conference. Go to the men's conference and go address the men about what the men are doing to women, and leave the Women's Day events alone for women to talk amongst themselves about the issues that affect women. Right now, condoms are free, but sanitary towels have to be paid for. You don't give a shit because what? It doesn't affect you. You don't care. We've never seen you going on period drives collecting pads for women. We've never seen you do that. We've never seen you speak about famous rapists. We've never. You always protect your Bazotini. But here we are as women, Tina. We're not scared. We're speaking for them. And yet still here you are wanting to take our platforms. Khaman, love yourselves. Love yourselves. We're sick and tired of you. Go make your own man's day. And when you make your man's day, address why you're beating up women. Address why you're raping women. But here you are wanting to be the voices of women. We don't need you to be our voices. We don't need you in front of us. We need you behind us. We don't need you in front of us. We need you behind us. Supporting us. Supporting the woman's voice, saying, yes, whatever she says, I agree. You don't come there and be like, yeah, okay, well, the women are saying, no, the women are not saying we want to speak for ourselves. Get off our stage. Get off our stage. We want to speak for ourselves. You've been oppressing us. Now you want to hide in Yalalako so that we don't speak. Get off the stage so we can stand on that stage and say how you're abusing us. Chassis. We don't even have menstruation leave. We bleed every 3 weeks. It's normal. We bleed every 3 weeks, but we don't have to. We're not allowed to take 2 or 3 days off to look after our bodies when something natural is happening to it. Is Cyril Ramaphosa going to talk to us about that? Is Julius Malema going to talk to us about that? Are they going to tell us about period pain? Are they going to tell us what to do with our period pain? And on that note, for your period pain, get a smoothie, beetroot and chilies and ginger. Make a smoothie. Usually around a week before your period, you can do that. Also, if you avoid eating red meat a few days before your period, it's a lot lighter flow. Nembepo, you can drink it. Mbepo tea makes your period lighter. I also want to, I don't know how you guys feel about tampons, you know? I don't feel so comfortable about tampons. I don't feel comfortable putting cotton wool, bleached cotton wool up my vagina. So I'm always encouraging women to use pads all the time. So I do encourage that. I know people find it a bit yucky and stuff. However, I do think it's a bit weird to put things up our vaginas. How do you ladies feel about that? You know? I'm trying to think what other I wanted to have a whole section in today's talk about periods because, like I say, they happen to us every 3 weeks. This should be an ongoing conversation all the time. We also need to. I need to remind you, ladies, to change your pads and your tampons regularly because you do put yourself in harm's way, bacterial infections. So we need to look after our coochie very, very nicely. I don't know if Julius Malema and Ramaphosa is going to be giving this part of the talk on Women's Day, but now we're moving on to the VJJ. So, ladies, love your vaginas. Okay, we've moved away from the voice and the anger now. Now we're cooling down, getting into the Women's Day talk. Your vaginas, our vaginas. Freaking love thy vagina. Don't be scared to get a mirror and look at your vagina, check out what it looks like, whatever, You've really got to have a relationship of love between you and your vagina because there's so many issues that we store in our gut and in our stomach and in our wombs. So when you don't have a healthy relationship with your vaginals and stuff, you do create emotional and spiritual blocks. Still on the topic of the vagina, we're getting violated, unfortunately. I wanted to also talk about, there's so many women's issues that we can't all put it all in 30 minutes, but we will keep talking. It's a whole month. I wanted to also talk about the vagina and your spiritual healing after a rape. I know these are all lots of different topics, but I'm going to touch. I found that, I'm going to speak from experience. I found that when I went in my mind into the moment of the rape, and I went to the girl who's getting raped, and I apologized to her, and I sent love and really positive energy to her. I found that it helped in my process of healing. I know it's not an easy thing to do, to go back to a moment when you were violated. But I know that also when we ignore our pain from rape, we create so many blockages and we create so much pain for ourselves. I tried for many years to ignore the fact that I was raped, but it really affected me and it just drove me crazy. So I think this morning, and I know most of you have experienced sexual assault, so I'm really comfortable talking about this. I want to encourage us to go back to that moment when the rape occurred and to love ourselves, and love our vaginas again, love our spirits again, love our bodies again. Don't be scared of sex, to not be scared of men. It took me years not to. People can see me lashing out at men all the time. That is 100% got to do with the fact that I was raped by a man. 100%. I don't understand why men think that after they rape us, we're going to have this feeling of goodwill towards them. No. If you get raped, you actually start hating men because you can't trust them. I never put myself in a position where I'm alone with a guy. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. So I wanted to talk about our healing, our healing, the healing of the spirit, the healing of the body after rape. I'm sure these are all sub topics that I'll keep engaging every Sunday. You can catch me right here on Conversations with Nzikima as well on my YouTube channel. But this August, we're going to be dealing with women's issues mainly. And how do we heal from rape? How do we deal with being in a domestic violence situation, How do we deal in the workspace? Men are still getting paid much more than us. How do we navigate the economics? You know, I'm finding it so ridiculous how men get paid more than us, but want to have an opinion about sex work. I'm like, this situation of sex work was created because men have excluded women from the workspace, because men are abusing women economically. Because if she doesn't make her own money, he's going to continue abusing her. So why do men think it's in their place to have an opinion on women being sex workers when they are the ones that have created the situation? I just like, there are things that I don't understand about the psyche of men. So yeah, that was basically it. I just wanted to address all my sisters, all my mothers, all my daughters, to just remind us to take up our space, kick off men, our platforms. I won't be logging onto any of the insulting Women's Day programs that are led by men. I never have to call PAC to order because they always do things right. They've got a Women's Day program being run by Muhao Pegu, and it's an all-female panel. So it's not even that I'm hating or having favoritism. They did it right. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We can speak in the comments section, both on my YouTube broadcast as well as on the Facebook one. I wish all the women an incredible, incredible, incredible Women's Day. May they never silence our voices. May we never allow them to silence our voices. Thank you so much, sisters. Have a beautiful day. And don't forget, whether you like her, whether you don't like her, we have to stick together right now. Remember, if someone tries to silence your voice, be as loud as possible. If somebody tries to silence your voice, be as loud as possible. Amba phambili qhawekazi khanya ndlovukazi. Embrace femininity, celebrate fertility. This womb carries to infinity sons and daughters of this divinity. Amba phambili Africa, amba phambili. Ala lantombazana kuchabashona kudala ulindelwe kule ndawo esingayibiza emadlozini. That feeling in your pit, almost like you feel sick. That, Lozikazi, is the boiling of your talents, which have lifted the iron lid, which made you bid farewell to your wishing well of glowing aura once upon a time when all was dark and hope a forgotten reality amongst life's leaves and thieves of different shades that paint the seasons when friends come and they go and you always end up alone. That, Lozikazi, lies in the past, which I've put behind you to remind you who you are. The time has come, Lozikazi. It's the ancestral resurrection. Can you stand tall in the correction of this conspiring collaboration? Amba phambili qhawekazi khanya ndlovukazi. Embrace femininity, celebrate fertility. This womb carries to infinity sons and daughters of this divinity. Amba phambili Africa, amba phambili qhawekazi khanya ndlovukazi. Embrace femininity, celebrate fertility. This womb carries to infinity sons and daughters of this divinity. Amba phambili qhawekazi, amba phambili. This womb carries to infinity sons and daughters of this divinity. Amba phambili Africa, amba phambili, amba phambili Africa, amba phambili.